Hello, and welcome to episode 77 of Bodied, the Cloud9 Fancast. Tonight, we'll discuss C9's multiple downfalls in playoffs, as well as some other news. The other news is also sad. It's another sad episode. I'm sorry. We're just gonna be sad again. I'm Havoc Puss.
I'm Dr. Manhattan coming back to do this very, very sad episode, as Havoc has recently put it.
Hi, I'm Frozen Creek. We can make this a college football podcast for today if you guys want.
No, there's no point.
Let's give the people what they want, and that's just our tilted, mixed, and mainly negative emotions about this past weekend.
A BoJack Horseman
Yes.
episode.
It is
Essentially.
funny, but also very hard to watch because it's sad.
It's just a little too
I know,
real.
but that's why the show's great. But anyway, there's some stuff coming out of the rumor mill, guys, and it seems that Stewie 2K, young Stewart, our boy, may in fact be leaving Cloud9 for another team. Sources within the CS:GO community say that he is most likely to go to SK Gaming. There are also rumors that Skadoodle will be leaving. There has been so many rumors about who, like, if they go, who they will replace. I think at one point I was even announced that I was going to be playing for them. But it's certainly hectic as heck.
Yeah. This is a rumor mill. We don't know anything specifically. I don't want to discuss it too much just because it's early and it's almost just like, I guess it's just a little too early to say. I've heard both are leaving. I've heard one is leaving and the other one's not, and I've heard that both ways. So I think it's a little too early to say what's going to happen.
I've also heard that this is like an elaborate April Fool's Day prank.
Yeah, it's really crazy right now.
Yeah, exactly. Which is why it's too early to talk about it.
I just wanted to float that out there so anyone that is listening can still panic and perhaps feel sad. But moving on to Smash, more disappointment. Ally participated in the SML Battle for Vegas. Ally fell in the top 32, coming in 13th in the tournament, which is not good. I suppose better news, Mango participated in the Full Bloom 4, and he did go to the loser's bracket, but he pretty much crushed it all the way through and played Hungrybox. Unfortunately, he was no match for the Puff, as he lost and came in second.
Yeah, I watched some of that. It wasn't the prettiest thing in the world. I'm not exactly sure which match I saw, but yeah,
I watched a few of them. They were
he
fun.
did okay. Second place
His
is
Falco
cool.
was like running all over the place. It was like watching an anime or something. It was great.
Yeah, and the only thing I have to say about that is just like, I mean, at this point it's unanimous that Hungrybox, I mean, is pretty much the best player like as it stands in Smash right now. So if losing, considering they had a pretty decent cast of people that showed up there, you know, guys like S2J or Leffen, which thank God he actually managed to completely wipe the floor with Leffen in that loser final. But yeah, if losing to the Hungrybox Puff is probably the worst thing we can that's pretty much what happened, and that's the result, then I think that it's decent for us, and it's, you know, we can counter victory in that sense. I just hope that Mango does turn it up as the season goes on, and I think I can speak for anybody in the Smash community saying that like this season's been pretty dry, so it's good to see the kid come out.
Yeah, and I think on the bright side, he did win, I think, like $3,200 when he was at Vegas. So, Mango coming up a winner after all. But moving on to Overwatch, the London Spitfire did close out their final Stage 2 matches pretty easily with a crushing defeat by Shanghai Dragons and a pretty exciting match against the Dallas Fuel, who has been slowly but surely trying to figure out how to actually play Overwatch. Sadly, they caught the C9 bug and they ended up losing to the Philly Fusion in a close 5 maps. Philly actually came out to play, and they've been like steadily ramping up and looking better and better with each week since stage 2 started. So it was worth watching, even though we lost, but it was also kind of frustrating because I think London once again like underestimated their opponent and was just like, no, we can just beat these guys. We don't really need to prepare too much. We need to really just focus on New York. And then they lost.
Yeah, frustrating.
Yeah.
Go ahead, dude. Sorry.
Yeah, it was extremely frustrating. It just didn't really seem like they came to play. The most disappointing thing, I think it was Route 66, a map that they had and lost on, I think in all season, so all stage, I guess. And Birdring just looked burnt out. Like, he just didn't come to play, and it really did affect the team overall because they couldn't execute any kind of their comps against
yeah, his
Dallas,
Widow was
so.
looking...
Or Philly, sorry.
His
Philly.
Widow was looking really poor that
I mean,
day.
not even that. Yeah. Yeah, and what's his face? Shiloh?
Snillo.
Snillo, yeah, and he fucking went ham.
He's super good.
So,
I underestimated
it
Snillo
wasn't
like a ton.
all...
We all did. It was absolutely insane.
Yeah, like, it wasn't all just London playing like shit. Like, that dude showed up to play. Like, that was one of the best Tracer performances I've seen in Overwatch.
Oh
League
yeah,
yet,
like
I
Philly
think.
has looked really good, and they totally deserve that win. Not simply because London was like underperforming, I think, like in multiple players, but just Philly has definitely improved their game, and I think how the roster functions right now is in a really good place, and I think that they can probably become the best, if not one of the best, like Western, I guess, quote unquote, teams for Overwatch League for sure.
Yeah, I was gonna make that point considering we always hear on like other esports that like there's like, oh, you know, when's the gap gonna close? And it was looking like this in the same way when it came to Overwatch. I think that most people said, like, right even before Stage 1 started, it's gonna be what, just London, New York, and Seoul, like pick one. And the fact that some of these Western teams, unfortunately, they're kind of coming and going, which is kind of a small concern for me. However, I am liking that they are putting up, you know, competition against, you know, some of these top teams. And Philly definitely came to play, and I'm definitely, of all the Western teams that I've been looking at, is definitely the one to watch going into Stage 3.
Yeah, I think that the sense of parity between the Korean teams and, you know, sort of the European, you know, more European rosters and the American rosters and stuff, that it's a very small gap, and I think a lot of players have just been saying, even from the beginning, like, oh yeah, it's actually super close. Like, the Koreans aren't like this super juggernaut. So it's pretty refreshing, actually, just to see that, like, if teams have a really good roster and they can, you know, just really practice and everything, anyone really has a chance of winning and being successful. But that closes it out for Stage 2. In Stage 3, you do have some stuff to look forward to. There are some Sombra and Mei changes. I'm not sure if the most recent Mei and Reaper changes on the PTR will be available, as well as, I think, Bridget will be available in Stage 4. But there will be some tweaks to some characters. Blizzard World will be in the map pool, which I somewhat disagree with. And also, Tizzy will be joining the London Spitfire, so a lot of exciting stuff to look forward to.
Yeah, I think Blizzard World's like a cool design map, but I feel like it's not quite there for a competitive setting yet. I feel like they need to fix it before they put it up on stage, but what do I know?
Yeah, I could go all day on gripes about Blizzard World, but short summary, I don't like it.
Yeah, I'm also with you guys. My only thing is just, I think it's a bit too early. Considering I don't think that, I mean, it's barely been, I mean, they released it mid last season, so it is kind of early for them to kind of start figuring it out, especially now that it just hit the solo queue pool. in Overwatch. So that's my main gripe with Blizzard World. The map is frustrating as it is, but that's, I think, the main thing to look at.
Yeah. Well, hopefully the team will stitch it up and be able to perform. Moving on to League of Legends, throws upon throws. So the Academy team lost to FlyQuest 0-3 in some pretty baffling fashions. I think, was it game 1 and game 3? They had like these huge gold leads, and then they just completely just nosedived. I think I remember that's what happened. I know that happened at least for game 1.
Game 3 was the one where, like, yeah, we had an insane lead. Like, it was just ridiculous. But lo and behold, the comp just couldn't really close it out. I mean, a part of that is just due to the comp, but it's just baffling as to how badly they threw it. I mean, a lot of that was, I blame some of it on comp, and I think that's a common. It's ironic that's a common problem with just Cloud9 as a whole. When it comes to League of Legends, but I mean, Renekton, unless he gets like an insane like advantage, can only do so much in the late game, and it was quite. I don't even want to talk about game 3. It was just so bad, just bad.
Yeah, I think I remember I heard a soundbite from Golden Glue where he's just like, and maybe it was the casters, I can't remember, but they were talking about how, like, yeah, Golden Glue looks really good until he gets on stage, and then he starts to really choke. And sadly, that kind of happened that weekend. Not to, like, disparage Golden Glue, but it is kind of what happened, and it kind of, I guess, adds more to the curse, I guess you want to call it.
Yeah, and like, it was a really weird kind of matchup too in that game. Like, they were like really far ahead, but when you kind of looked at how the game was set up at that point, like, at one point FlyQuest had 3 Infernal Drags, and we had Olaf and Renekton, which is like a full negative champion in like the late game. So the window was there to win the game, but I think it was too hard of a comp for a Academy team to pull off.
Yeah, and I'm also looking at like the comp that Fly had. I mean, they had Keen on the Cassiopeia, which is a signature of his. 2, it's becoming really good in the meta with the Seraphs, and 3 is just, if you can get it to the point where they got it to, which is 3 Infernals, full build, on someone who's comfortable with it, like, you're not winning fights at that point, unless you, like, 3v1 her, and even then it's still kind of risky.
Yeah, I think also, I don't want to fault the team too much, just because, they had Shiro and I think maybe Wiggly. I think this was their, like, first... this is Shiro's first competitive season of, like, anything ever. And I think this was Shiro and Wiggly's first playoffs in sort of an Academy Challenger setting. Zeyzal has been in Academy playoffs before, but he's never kind of been able to close out, I think. I can't remember how E United has done in the Challenger playoffs, but...
They didn't do very well. They were losing, like, in, like, the promotion tournament. That was when they had, like, Deathly and Licorice.
Yeah, so kind of unfortunate, but I think that, Academy I don't think is really meant for winning playoffs. Academy is to learn, and it is to grow as players and as teammates. So I think they learned something valuable that day, and I hope they learn something even more valuable come summer season. As sort of a silver lining, looking on the bright side sort of thing. LCS, however, is all about playoffs. And boy, oh boy, was it rough. I think before we start, I do want to say that I came into this match with very low expectations, just because with what Cloud9 was really struggling with and what their issues were, I don't think there was any way that they would have fixed all of their stuff and been, like, battle ready in just a week.
I'm kind of skeptical about that. I think that it would have been maybe a little too much to flip everything, but this team has been halfway together for a very long time, and it's not like Svenskerin's new to like the scene. Like he's been on championship rosters before, and I figured Licorice could hold his own, but they kind of just fell apart. Like they weren't especially good at any point of the game. So,
I mean, I will say, like, Cloud9 looked good in the early game and when they were in their individual lanes. That was when they looked good and at their best. The issue was when it came to mid-game stuff and it came to late-game stuff and everyone's sort of bouncing around and everything, that's when trouble really starts, because Team Liquid just looked like the better, more cohesive, synchronized team. You know, and Cloud9 is still in their weird, jumbled phase where they don't really know what to do past, like, 15, 20 minutes. So, like, Liquid's like, okay, we'll just play patient. Oh, we made a mistake here. Don't worry, just look for an opportunity. And I think with Cloud9, it was sort of a thing. I think especially after their previous losses, they're just like, okay, we have a lead, what do we do with it? And everyone's just like, we don't know. And it kind of crumbled from there, because a bunch of stuff, I guess.
Yeah. I like that point that you also made where it's like, I had low expectations. It kind of reminds me of like that famous Dewey meme you always see being circled around from Malcolm in the Middle. Now, I expected nothing, and I'm still very disappointed at this. But I mean, yeah, I think there's a lot to be said as to what this team needed to do. It's pretty much all over the place when it comes to macro and like trying to accelerate like your like tempo mid game. I felt like Cloud9 didn't know how to do that. A lot of it was just disrespecting kind of what other champions could do. Like we saw that with that Pobelter play where he completely took advantage of the misposition, and pretty much at that point, Azir in the late game just becomes a monster, and I think that they should start being played safer there. Obviously, people are pointing to some degree towards Licorice for just his not cohesion and team fighting. Another valid thing. I mean, I'm basically repeating stuff, why are we target banning Impact, the guy who basically has a deep champion pool, and we of all people should know that. So when it comes to tanks, but I think what I do want to mention is just like the only thing that it really seemed like they just didn't know how to do was just accelerate tempo, and it's really unfortunate that there was like really flashes of like some sort of C9 brilliance, but they just couldn't get it together at that minute, especially in a series where you really can't be making mistakes, because even like a small little mistake in some regard will completely throw off the complete mood for the entire team, especially with newer guys like Licorice who have a ton of pressure on them, or guys like Svenskeren who are just trying to really shit on all the haters that said he should have got kicked off TSM last year. But the results are what they are, and what we have to do is see what we can do to move forward.
Yeah, sorry, you go ahead, President. Never mind.
Yeah, I was just gonna continue on with some of the things that felt like anomalies, along with our pick and ban phase, which was a little bit questionable. I still didn't like the Fiora pick, but I mean it's whatever at this point. It's water. Wait, it's milk under the table. Is that what the saying is? That's not the saying.
I have never heard that before.
Something like that.
Okay, that's not the saying then. One of the biggest things for me was I thought Jensen underperformed like extremely heavily. I'm looking at the playoff statistics now, and when you look at the gold percentage, so how much of the gold the player got for the team's total gold, Jensen was 6th in gold percentage. But if you look at DPM, he was down at 13th for playoffs. So like he was under everyone on Cloud9 except Svenskeren. So Licorice did more damage than even Pobelter. So that was one of the worrying things for me, was the fact that he kind of just shit the bed and just didn't show up all series, I feel like.
Yeah.
And it's unfortunate when you consider that 4 of our players were on all pro teams, and it's just like this shouldn't be happening.
Yeah, and I'm looking at laning stats. He's like top 3 in XP difference at 10 and CS difference at 10. His gold difference at 10 is relatively low, but like that's only part of the equation. And it kind of shows that he was like showing up in lane, but he just apparently just didn't do damage. And it's not like we picked Karma 3 games in a row. So to me, I think that was probably the biggest underperformer for me. I mean, I don't want to say that Svenskeren was like underperforming because I don't think he's really all that good in any way. So
Well, I think probably what's forcing like Jensen and Sneaky to play defensively is because there was an interview, I think it was with Inven, but Impact was doing an interview with them after they won, and he was like, yeah, they're really struggling because I used to be the guy to like really ramp up tempo and make sure everyone's like keeping tempo, and I'm the one that's like pulling the trigger. I'm the one that's like helping start fights and stuff and do all this other stuff. So he was like a really big enabling force that allowed Jensen and Sneaky to really do what they do best. And with him gone, there is a pretty, important voice that's not there. So now they have to kind of pick up the pieces. So I think that's probably a good point to kind of look at for their struggles. But I think, I know, I think to maybe move on to maybe what they can improve on looking to summer. So, unless, does anyone have any other points for this match? I think we kind of touched on everything, really.
No pun intended.
No.
But kind of beating a dead horse at this point.
Yeah, I mean, I'll tie it into summer,
right.
So it's not a big deal.
Summer, Jack has announced that there will be no big roster changes between now and the summer season, which I agree with. I don't think that we need to once again upheave the roster and how it works just because we had one bad performance. But what can Cloud9 do to help them prepare and improve for summer? I'm just thinking out loud here, but I think maybe just hire more coaching staff. Hire a guy that can just, all he does is pay attention to the meta and do pick ban stuff. That's all. Just instead of Reaper being the guy out there, have the pick ban dude come in and be like, okay, you're gonna play this, you're gonna play this, you're gonna play this, and he knows exactly what is good and what they need to kind of start practicing looking forward. And maybe some other staff members, I don't know. I think that the issue is just that we need more like support to help, especially like Licorice and maybe Sven get back to where they need to be.
I'll take this one. I do agree in terms of like what kind of coach, in terms of they need coaching. What kind of coaching I will say that I would like to see is similar to what we see also in some degree in Korea, and we also tried it last year, and to more or less it helped on our effect. I want to see more specifically positional coaching, because even though Reaper, was a top laner at some point, I mean, I would like to see him kind of get like the bigger picture stuff, while we have coaches that were like former top laners in high environments that maybe weren't in recent performances, or maybe someone who recently retired. Reaper, we know, has a ton of connections in Korea that he could see what positional coaches there are, like, and what top laners we're just looking for experience within teams, maybe even North America. I do want to see that. It worked to some degree when we did have contracts, and we hired Lulex to help him out. So I want to see positional coaching, more support staff to see like analyzing pick and bans, and have Reaper handle like much more of the bigger picture stuff. Kind of left field as well, and I think I've heard murmurs of this. Maybe once the season's done, take or at least when it comes to the LCK and stuff like that, maybe take the guys over for a few weeks to Korea. Not really. It's not a popular opinion, considering even whispering the word Korean boot camp nowadays is kind of has very mixed feelings. But I have them there, practice against some top teams, and see what needs to be improved on.
I think you guys are kind of almost there, but I'm not exactly sure adding a bunch of support staff is like the way to go, because they only have so much time to practice throughout the week. Like, say they do 10-hour days, like they only have 50 hours to practice Monday through Friday, and that's a lot of time. So I think that they need to spend their time just a little bit better. Like, we've seen the team be able to play a macro late game, but I think it was leading back to last split. Like, there was a point in time where this team had a terrible early game, and maybe halfway through to 3/4 through the last summer split, they kind of slowly started to improve their early game a little bit more. And I feel like this is the other swing of the pendulum, where maybe Reaper is just lost for ideas on how to teach the late game, but like our early game is obviously good, but it doesn't seem like they're prepared once the clock hits 20 minute. And Baron is up. Like, they're making terrible backing calls. They can't figure a way to unlock Baron. They're not even getting a lane priority when Baron's up and they're 8,000 gold ahead or whatever. Like, it just seems like they're fundamentally missing the basics of what to do once Baron's up. And I think that what we need is to put a focus on to mid in late game where we're crumbling again, because I kind of going back to what the discussion was then. Who was the TSM coach last year?
Oh, Parth.
A psychology guy.
Walden.
Oh.
Walden, yeah. Walden. Yeah, that's who I was thinking of. He made that huge public statement last year when he was talking about how like the early game is almost kind of a script, and where you win and lose games is in the mid to late game, and how you practice around the different scenarios then. And I feel like I'm not sure if Reaper's out of ideas on how to coach the mid and late game, or the team just doesn't listen. But I think it's more of going to be focusing on the mid to late game and trying to find the scenarios where they can unlock Baron Pit. And for those 3 games, they were on red side both times, and you could tell that they had no clue how to engage and find a pick to actually get to Baron, because countless times you'd watch them go into river, try and find some kind of engage, and Team Liquid would just split up into the blue side jungle by Baron, where there's two openings. It's not ideal for engaging on, which is why I think that we weren't able to unlock anything. But if we are to bring in support staff, I think a lot of it is going to have to do with how they transition into mid and late game, and not so much how their laning went. Because if you look at some of the stats for like last split, like our early game was really good. Like, our laning is fine. It's just how we put it together and how we kind of understand the game once we're actually in game. And I think a lot of that comes down to chemistry and playing together and trusting each other. So what do I think about the rosters? Like, I don't think we have an improved roster from last year, which I've already beat that to death. So I do think that there's potential there, but I'm worried that we don't have the staff, including the players, to unlock it. Yeah,
I agree. Now. I think there definitely needs to be more support staff. But yeah, I mean the team has potential, like we saw it in the first half of the split. If they don't have any issues and they can all play smart and play well, they can do a lot. But I think it's just a matter of them getting over stuff, and I think that part of this break will just help them kind of decompress. There's not going to be any stress. The split's over. You don't have to worry about trying to fix stuff. Especially when nothing seems to be working, you don't have to worry about anything. Just kind of sit back for a bit. Play some other games. Take a breath for a little while, and then when you get to scrimming again, then you can start fresh. I think sometimes it's just stress can be overwhelming, and they just need to get over that and start fresh like nothing ever happened, really. That's just sort of the quirky, happy side of it. I can't think of anything else to say.
All right.
Yeah.
Dr. Manhattan, do you have anything else?
No, you guys kind of touched on what needed to kind of be said, or just kind of taking ideas. I gave my piece, and I agree. This roster, while it did have potential, and that's kind of why I more or less agree that we should keep it the same. It's just really about unlocking a lot of what that was in the first half, and just working on our tempo and getting staff to do and helping us get staff to do so, maybe. Or maybe taking these guys to Korea, we'll whatever have it. But hopefully they can decompress, they can forget about all this, and it'll practically be a brand new game when they come back in summer, because who knows what patches will hit. And like always, I'm always leaving this in Jack's hands, and I'm hoping for the best for summer.
Yeah, same. I do think that, I guess my final point, they do need to take more advantage of the Korean boot camp. Lately they haven't really done it that often, and I think it maybe is why they kind of struggled in some cases, or maybe they didn't play as well as they could have. I think like last year, like we barely did anything with the opportunity boot camp, and like all the other teams were boot camping, so it just seemed kind of it seemed kind of weird to me. I don't know. I know there's like expense issues and logistics issues, but I don't know. I would have liked to see us kind of maybe try to take advantage of more elevated practice than whatever it is that we were, usually doing.
I think just part of the argument against it and why teams are doing it is because it's such a huge cost, and I think that they don't see the benefits to be worth what the cost is. Like, you're getting a whole support staff and team to stay just for like two weeks, where they spend like half of it in solo queue, where even half of that time is spent in like platinum and diamond because they have to rank a whole new account. So I don't know what the scrims are like. I don't know how many scrims they get, but I think what I've mostly seen is that it's not worth like the flight, the jet lag, the cost for just a couple weeks of extra practice. Like, it might be beneficial. I don't know. I think it is like a good bonding experience and stuff that you don't get in NA. But like now, like, you're not practicing against the old team at MV because they're absolutely shit. Like, you can actually get good practice now. But do you guys have anything else to talk about? I know we're gonna have a lot of time between splits, but I want to do something mildly fun, super quick, since we have like 10 minutes.
Okay.
Okay, so are there any champions right now that you guys would like to see as a meta champion at some point in time? Because I was sitting in bed last night, and I was like, I think I was watching I forgot his name, but he's a Teemo One Trick, and I was wondering if we would ever see Teemo as like a meta pick in LCS. So like, I don't want to base it solely around Teemo, but like, are there any champs that you guys would also like to see?
I would personally love to see Shyvana get like a bunch of play, because she's just such a fun character to me. She has like this really interesting kit of like, yeah, she clears like super duper fast, so you can get the farming out of the way quickly, and then, you know, once you hit 6, which I guess is the problem with her, but like once she hits 6, when she has her ultimate, you can just do these crazy fun plays where you're just swooping in like a dragon and you're going roar, and then you're just punching everything in sight with your dragon fists. And I think she's just super fun, and I don't know, I think if maybe they find some changes that can make Shyvana, you know, just better in, I guess, probably the early game, as well as make her, I don't know. Plus the mechanic of her like killing dragons makes her stronger is super interesting and cool. So I just love to see that, just because she adds an interesting kink into the game that you don't normally see.
Yeah, and there was that one time, what was it, season 5, the Miracle Gauntlet run.
Yes, yes, and it was the best thing ever.
And that was what was it? Was
no,
it
no,
Blood
Sage
Razor?
Devourer.
No,
That was back when Sage Devourer was a thing.
Sage Devourer.
And she was like,
yeah,
she was one of the best
way
on
back
Sage
when.
Devourer because you could stack it up so quickly. So you were like, if you were super good, you could get it probably like at like, I think maybe like 12, 14 minutes into the game, and then you just have like all of this damage behind you so early.
Yeah, and like the craziest part about that was he picked up Shyvana because Amumu was just not working, and they wouldn't stop trying it. Yeah, that was like way back when Blue Krugs and Red Krugs had or not Blue Krugs and Red Krugs, but Blue Buff and Red Buff
they
had
the little
two mini counterparts with them. Yeah, wild times years ago, back in my day. But what do you think, Dr. Manhattan?
If there was a champion I want to see have some more competitive play, I'd love to see Brand, just because it's just really funny it's just funny to me from a solo queue experience. Just like whenever like the DOT just like burns people and catches people off guard when they're low. Not to mention like when you get like a really good ult in like a team fight, like it just the 3-hit passive just spreads so much, and once you get like a Rylai's peak, like a power spike, it's just like melting people, like because it stacks on top of that, along with Leandry's. So just seeing that would be cool. I remember the last time he really saw any sort of like play, quote unquote, was like right when they reworked a lot of the right when they reworked him a bit. Back in what, like the mid-year mage update, I forget when that was, but that was when he got like that 3-hit passive. And and not to mention it's like because I think it does percentage of max health, like he just melts tanks. It just sucks that he's not really good in late, and because he's very immobile, he tends to just completely get like raffle stomped by like any team with like that can abuse that lack of mobility that he has in his kit. So yeah, it'd be fun to see just Brand melt people.
Or yeah, we saw a little bit of him. I think it was Dumbledore. You played him at Worlds since maybe
I think so.
6?
That's one of Dumbledore's pocket picks, I think. Or no, that's also Liquid's pocket pick.
Liquid broke it out in support, and I was just ecstatic.
Yeah. I think mine is Teemo. I think it'd be funny just to see like. I get it that like he doesn't do anything that other champions don't. Like Jace lanes better than Teemo does. So like there's not as much of a point to pick Teemo. I just think I watched that Teemo one trick quite a bit, not because he's like this entertaining guy, but for some reason I just enjoy watching Teemo play. I don't play him myself, but I don't know. I just thought that was a fun question. The one thing I miss most actually that was meta at one point was Lulu mid. That was my shit.
It's so annoying with just like all the poke. No, why? Ugh.
Oh yeah, it was cancer, but like she didn't do like that much damage, so it kind of made up for it. But like it just was super anti-fun. Oh, I also really want to see someone play Jaime Merdinger.
Yeah, I think they were talking about how like he could maybe see play because of the AP item changes, but I think his kit is just to where you can't really do anything with him. At least on like the coordinated pro
Yeah,
level.
I think it takes too much practice. Yeah. Or yeah, I feel like the practice trade-off is not worth the benefit. So yeah, that was my fun question of the day.
Yeah, well, I think that's gonna do it for us today. I think that's a good stopping point. So, thank you for listening to this somewhat sad episode of Bodied, the Cloud9 Fancast. We won't give up, however. We're gonna stick with Cloud9 despite the setbacks. Feel free to tweet questions and feedback to us at C9Bodied or email us at bodiedfancast@gmail.com. Questions might be answered on the next show, or we'll get to you as soon as we can, so make sure to get in touch with us. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you again next time.
We'll see you later, guys.
Bye, guys.
Goodbye.
Goodbye.